Mari-Lise, your research focuses on dryland forests in southern Africa. Tell us about dryland forests and why this is important to us.
Well, firstly, I would say what dryland forests are not. So what I'm looking at the moment is beyond the tropical dense rainforests, which we all know at this stage why they're important. So dryland forests are, as the name suggests, forests that occur in drier regions. So in southern Africa, these are the dominant forest types. It's, for instance, the Miombo woodlands, which you find across most of the region and in countries like Zambia. It's Mopani woodlands, acacia woodlands. And beyond that, one could even look at trees on farmland in dryland areas. Why are they important? Well, firstly, I would focus on the potential. So these areas and these forests really have the potential to contribute to poverty reduction, to economic growth, and food security in the region. Forests provide multiple goods and services. If you look at goods, of course, there's timber, there's charcoal, there's fodder. So these same Miombo woodlands, in times when it's really dry, sometimes that's one of the only animal feeds available. Services are things like carbon sequestration. You also have watershed services and protection of biodiversity.
So these are all the reasons why drylands are important. But I'm guessing there will be some really big challenges in this sector. Could you take us through that?
If you look at southern Africa, for instance, this is the region with the highest rate of deforestation on the continent. Even if you look at a map of desertification risk, many countries in this region feature very prominently on this map. Now, from a governance perspective, I would argue that one of the big challenges faced by the forestry sector is that it's often a marginalized sector. So we're not really valuing these resources properly. And what I mean by value, it's almost two things. On the one hand, there's the monetary value, rands and cents and dollars. We're saying that the value of these resources are not reflected in state accounts. And there could be different reasons for that. On the one hand, many of this, for instance, if you look at the timber trade, much of the trade is informal, so that's not reflected. On the other hand, many of the services provided by the sector are simply seen as free services. So that's the monetary value, but at the same time, I think we also need to be able to make a convincing case for the sector, or to tell the story of why the sector is important.
So in terms of making a case, what examples emerged from your research that illustrate the need to better manage dryland forests?
I've been using the SAIIA forestry strategy for 2010 to 2020 as a framework. And if you look at the priority areas in that strategy, 6 or 7 of them, all of them you can make a convincing case for why this is important. So maybe let's take one. It's a personal interest to me, the relationship between forests and water. Well, not many people are aware that both the type and the location of trees have a big impact on both the quality and the quantity of water. So, for instance, forests, when it rains a lot, they would absorb water like giant sponges, and then in dry seasons release that water again. Also, a forest can take pollutants and transform them into less harmful substances. So for these reasons, you often find forests in key watersheds. If you look at Zambia, the source of the mighty Zambezi River is dense Miombo woodlands in Zambia. So deforestation in that area could impact downstream in a country like Mozambique.
And are there any examples in South Africa?
Well, many big cities in the world actually depend on a large proportion of their freshwater supply from forested watersheds. That includes a city like Cape Town. We have a payment for watershed services program in South Africa, one of the biggest in the world, called Working for Water. And that essentially, there's a tax on the water that we use. And that tax is used for a big public works program called Working for Water, which basically entails clearing invasive alien species. This has created a lot of jobs, and it also has saved the country a lot of money.
So how do we push this issue to the top of the policy agenda?
Well, I've just spoken about one aspect, so looking at the forest-water link. I think one can make equally strong cases for other areas, for instance, energy and forestry. or poverty reduction, or food security. And once you do that, and you can really make a convincing case at that level, you can very easily link forests to key national, regional and continental development strategies. For instance, the SAIIA Regional Indicative Strategic Development Plan. And that way you really show that this sector is key, also in the way that it interacts with other sectors in the economy.
Mari-Lise, thank you so much for talking to us.